Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to do something just a little bit different for you all and just sit down and have a chit chat on a certain type of makeup item that is great for beginners to know about. I have been requested on this video so many times by so many of you all, and it is what brushes to use and what they're good for. So here in front of me, I have laid out everything to do a complete full face of makeup with my brushes. I'm going to show you different brushes to use and what their purpose serves. So a lot of these are multi-purpose brushes. A lot of them do the same job, but they are different types of brushes, and so on and so on and so on. So I'm just going to lay out in front of me the basic, what you find in palettes when you go to your drugstore, when you go to your high-end stores, wherever you go, these palettes that you see, I'm going to explain to you what those brushes do, what they're good for, and how to use them. And for you beginners out there, this video is going to be a great tool to come back to kind of see what brushes that you need to use in order to create that full face. So without further ado, let's jump right in and let's get started talking about these brushes. Now, first and foremost, I'm going to start and I'm going to walk through this like I would do my full face of makeup. So on a normal day, I start off with my eyebrows. Now, as most of you may know, I use products that already have a spoolie built in, and then on the other side, they have some sort of pencil to create the rest of your look with. If you do not have that, this is what you need right here. This is a spoolie. It looks just like a mascara wand. You need something like this in order to comb those eyebrows. So for example, if you have a pomade, you probably have a brush that is angled like this, similar to this one. This one is good for so many different reasons. This is a multi-purpose brush. This one can be good to fill in your eyebrows. It can be good to do like a gel liner. I even use this to clean up my liner, spritz it with some MAC Fix Plus, and then follow that sharp wing line all the way out, and it really helps to carve out that wing. So these can be used, eyebrows to comb up. This one can be used to put on your eyebrows, to do a liner, or to help carve out that liner. That is what these are. So moving on from eyebrows, let's go on with our eye look. I always use a concealer and then a sponge, a beauty sponge. Any type, it doesn't matter. I have a whole bucket of them right here that I go back and forth between. As long as it stays soft and it gets really puffy once you dampen it with water, it's going to be a great sponge. It just is. So anyway, I will set my eyes with that. Then I do the damp sponge with the powder. Then from there, I like to go on and I like to use some sort of fluffy brush. Now, there is no specific right or wrong brush to use. As you can see, all of these kind of have the tapered top. None of them are flat at the top. They go from shorter to longer. And they all have that nice fluff to them. These are great for doing transition shades and doing some crease shades. These are the ones that I typically grab for the most. You will more than likely find something like this in a brush set anywhere that you go to purchase one. Next on is my crease brush. Something like this right here, something a little more smaller, denser, and precise. Something like this is really going to push into that crease. That is what's going to create the most just depth in the eye, and that's what's going to make it look a lot darker there, where your eye starts to just kind of fold. So this is the type of brush that you want to use in that crease to really create depth. Some palettes have these, some palettes don't. I bought this one in a set from Ulta. It was the IT Cosmetics brushes for Ulta, and it had a lot of nice brushes in there for me to work with, and this one is my absolute hands down favorite for creasing. Next up after that, something like this, which is a little bit more dense, still tapered. I like to do this in my outer V because I do a lot of cat eye looks. So for me, these are my hands down go-to brushes that I typically like to go for. Now this one is great for angling down, angling over, getting in that crease if I need to, or even just creating that kind of faux liner with some eyeshadow, I will drag that down across the top of my lid, and that will give me that perfect appearance using something like this right here. Doesn't have to be this specific one. This one is just my go-to and what I reach for. You probably will find something like this in a lot of your palettes. Moving on now is for kind of the lower lash line. A lot of times you will see me kind of really work something in down there like I did with this look. I use something along the lines of these, something that is more on the flat side, super short bristled, and very, very dense. These are your smudge brushes. This is what's really going to go in there and pack that eyeshadow on super tightly and not blow it out too much. After that, then of course I do go in with a fluffy side and really just work it out. But you don't want to go in with that to begin with because you will have it way too down far and it will just make you look probably like you're on drugs, to be honest. Just like. Anyway, moving on. We have some more eyeliner brushes, just some really tiny little ones here. This guy right here, I love something flat and something skinny to carve out my eyebrows and to put concealer on my lid if I want to do some sort of lid shade or like a shimmer shade. This right here is the perfect type of brush to go for if you want to do that. So these are all super multi-purpose. They're all so great to work with. And to be honest, there's really no right or wrong way when picking a brush to pick what it's used for. So if you're doing something, don't think that you're doing it wrong because you watched this video and I did something totally different with it. There are no rules at all to makeup. You do what you want, and if you are happy with the outcome, then you keep doing it by all means. If I tell you something and you don't agree with it, then you keep doing what you're doing because what I believe in is just what works for me and my face type, my skin type, etc. So anyway, if you don't agree with me, then you just keep doing what you're doing. No harm, no foul. It's all good. This is just a little tip for beginners who have no clue where to even begin. So, moving on. Now, after we've done that, time for foundation. If you watch my videos, you know I always apply foundation using some sort of sponge. The Real Technique is one. I actually just got this in the mail yesterday and I've used it like crazy. Like it's already so dirty. But my tried and true is my Morphe sponge that looks like hell. But I love it. It is so, so good. It was so affordable too. And I just love that it has the flat top on this end. And it just works really great. That is typically how I apply my foundation because I have dry skin. That's just what works better for me. But there are so many other ways that you can do it. Now, a brush that you can use to apply your foundation with, when I do decide to use the brush, this is the one that I go for. This is the Morphe M439. It is super dense, very short bristled here. And it is super, super soft, and it is really good just to buff and just kind of really stipple out the makeup. This one is one that I really like to go for. Another good one is some type of oval brush. This one, actually I picked this one up from Sally Beauty. It is the Face Secrets brand. It is super soft, and it actually really does buff out that makeup super nicely. So these are some really good options to keep in mind. Along with this and the sponge, and there's a lot of other ones. I do sometimes prefer something like this, like a flat top brush to put my makeup on with. A lot of those work out really nicely for me. So it's one of those that you can just play around and see what works best for you and then stick with it. For me, there's a lot of different techniques that I like to use, but the sponge is mostly what I like to go for. After that, I would typically use my sponge to do concealer and my setting powder, but to wipe away that setting powder, I like something like this. This one is the Wet n Wild Holiday Collection, and it's just a super nice fluffy top brush. It's not too dense, so it has a lot of movement in it. And I really love this one because of the handle here. It has a spot for your thumb, so when you're holding it, it just fits in there perfectly, and it doesn't just ache your hand. I really like this one. But this one right here is super fluffy, super soft, and it is just so nice to wipe away any of that excess bake that you have. This one is another really good one to keep in mind. Not this specific one, just anything that looks like this. So now you all kind of know what these are good for. For my bronzer, there's a few different things that I like to do. I'm going to combine the bronzer in the contour section here. If I'm doing a true contour, like a cream contour, I will use something like this that is super squared off very, very dense. This is actually the Real Techniques one, and it just kind of lightly buffs out. I never swipe back and forth because it is so dense. It will just totally wipe that product down to the skin, and it doesn't buff it out. But if you take it and you just kind of stipple it along, it blends out that contour beautifully. And I love the shape of it too, because it is so perfect to create just that harsh line there that creates that super slimming contour effect. This one is a really good for true contour. Now for bronzer, this one I have been reaching for a lot lately. Anything that goes to a taper is super nice to work with. This is another one of those IT brushes, the IT Cosmetic brushes for Ulta, and it is the airbrush powder is what it is called. And I like this one just to do my bronzer with on the cheeks and on the forehead, because it's not too dense, it's not too compacted, and it's not flat on top. So it has that nice tapered effect, so it doesn't make it too boom when I put that bronzer on my cheek. That one is a good one. This one right here is a little bit more flatter on top, but this is the Morphe Y5 brush. This one is nice, and if I'm in a hurry, this is one that I really like to go for because it gives me just that natural kind of bronzed look, nothing too heavy, nothing too much. But yes, this one works really, really nice. So any brush that you see like these, I like to use for bronzer as well. There is another one here that I love, and this one is so cool. So many people use these for highlighters, and I used to until I came across a video that showed me a trick on this, and I was hooked. I've actually recently stopped doing it because I did switch to my IT Cosmetics brush for bronzing, but this guy right here was perfect for bronzer because where it is so wide, you could sweep down there along the cheek line, and it was perfect. You could hit up through here around the temples and the forehead, and it was perfect. And it was perfect just to sweep on that chin down through here. It was just, it's amazing. And I do still use this one time and time again, but it's just kind of like a fad. I'll use something for a couple of weeks and then I'll switch to something else. That's just how I go. But all of these brushes and things that I am showing you are things that I do believe in and things that I do really, really use a lot, whether I do it in videos or not. It just might not be, you know, that time, but a few weeks later, a month or two later, I'll probably be back to using it again, because I do go in cycles with my makeup and my techniques. But this one is a really good one for bronzer. You can also use it for contour, or not contour, highlighter if you wanted to as well. That's actually its main purpose. But moving on to blush, the only thing that I ever use for blush is anything that is super fluffy like this and flat topped. I have so many of these sitting over here in my brush bucket, but anything like this is what I love for blush, and this is the only thing that I use. There's different techniques that you can do. I also used to use one of these. This one is another one of that Wet n Wild holiday collection that is tapered, and I used to use this one for blush, but to be honest, I just love the way this one works so much better, and it's so easy just to wipe on those cheeks and do a nice swipe up. But this is great for a blush brush. Say that 5 times fast. For highlighter, there's a few things that I use. All of these are, of course, the same. I just have multiple different brushes. Any type of fan brush is good if you like a subtle highlight. This one is the Wet n Wild. It's a little bit more bigger. This one is good for a highlight. This is actually what I used to use, but then I like highlight so much that I actually put it on my sponge and really work it in, and I feel like I get so much more payoff that way, and it looks so much more natural. So that is another good technique too. Or any of these brushes right here will work perfect for a highlighter on that cheekbone, or really just anywhere that you want to highlight, because it just fits right in everywhere, and it just works perfectly. It does. But that is it for my brushes. That is all the brushes that I have that I use on a regular basis, and that you all could kind of get something from and learn a little bit when you see these palettes, when you go to the store and you kind of wonder, what is that brush for? What will I ever use this for? You know, what do I need to do to put foundation on? You know, so many different questions. I hope that this video answered them all. And if you liked it, give it a huge thumbs up, and be sure and subscribe to my channel. I do post weekly, and I would love to see you here watching all of them. But anyway, Thank you all, and I will catch you all in my next video. Bye, everyone.